So this morning I looked at the Uniball brush pens and their fineliners, and one of the things you need to remember is when I do these tests, I generally would not have spent the time testing the product beforehand. I would have, I quite like to do the tests live, which is not necessarily the best thing, but I think it's nice that you see my reaction to the tools because they're new tools to me too. And so, as I've said before, I have a Acanthus for Calligraphers workshop coming up, a 2-day workshop on the 17th and 18th. There's a calendar up there. On the 17th and 18th of February, which is in 2 weeks' time. And the aim of this course is to help students understand how to draw Acanthus for calligraphy. So there are lots of Acanthus leaves and Acanthus illustration we find in illuminated manuscripts. And of course, my focus is writing and calligraphy, as well as manuscript illumination and painting, as well as gilding. So I do a fair deal of gilding, which a lot of people don't really know that. And a lot of people don't really know that I do painting either. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a project that I'm working on for a client, which is an Acanthus leaf scroll illustration work for a border. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take a piece of that, and I'm going to show you how to apply these tools that I looked at earlier on today, those Uniball brush pens and the fineliners. I'm going to look at how those can work for this kind of illustration. So, so this is a project that I'm working on. And so it's an Acanthus border. It's quite long, actually. Let me, actually, in the portrait format, it's quite problematic. So, can I come out some more? Yes, there we go. So it's quite a large piece of work. And what I've done is I've just traced the bottom bit of this using some layout paper, some London Graphic Center layout paper. So that pad looks like this. It is not the easiest pad to get outside of the UK. If you're in the US, you might be able to get the Dale Rowney layout pad as well. They work in a very similar way. So let me just zoom in on this, and we'll start at the bottom. So there's the base of the Acanthus, and it's just this segment that I'm going to show you. It's nice for you to see the rest of it. The green is actually malachite. So let's put this away. All right, so here's the segment I'm going to work on, somewhat a little bit. And let's grab these Uniball tools. So these are the ones we used today, this morning. So please go and look at that video. It really sort of, it really looks at the tools and what these tools are. So of course, the brush pens, come over. We have a light gray, a sort of taupey gray, and a black. And there is a brown as well. I'm also going to use the fineliner tips. I love how it sort of holds together in this packaging, which is really great. And I'm going to take the 0.3 and the take the 1.2. I'll use the black as well, and I think I'll use the brown. The brown, separate brush. There it is. So let's look at some of this kind of illustration work. So ideally, you can see the light is coming from here. If I put my hand in front of the lamp, if the light is hitting there, we generally say the light comes from the top left. It's coming from here. So everything on the left side will be lighter. So I'm only going to the outline with the fine liner, the 0.3 up to, I guess, about here. Now, what I'm not doing, I'm not pressing. I'm really just on the tip of the fine liner. And I'm adding little changes to it. You can see the pencil work doesn't have this little turn on it. I've just added that turn. Bit. And the light's coming from here. So this is where I can expect, pull this in here. This is where I can expect that to start to go into shadow. The shadow there. The light will hit the top here. And it'll hit the top here. And it'll hit the top here and there. So I've done a little turn on it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the shadow with the 12. I see the 12, the 1.2. And you'll see an immediate difference. The light will hit here. The shadow will be there. Do a little turn. Let's pull this out here. Now, I probably should have used 7, not the 1.2, but you're really starting to see how how that starts to affect what you're seeing as light and shade. Now, obviously, under here, that's a shadow. That's a shadow. That's a shadow. That's a shadow. And that's a shadow. Now, what I'm also doing is I'm not pressing on the thing. I'm actually letting the paper come up to meet the tip so that I can actually get, so if I press on it, I get this. What I really want is I want to be able to do that. You can see that there's a gradation. There's a width differential. So I'm going from a thinner line to a heavier line and back to a thinner line. So very much like a pointed flexible metal. Now, let's take that 0.3. You're really starting to see how this shadowing effect works. Now, from what I remember, the gold comes out of here. So I'm not going to do that bit. Right. Let's take the brush pen. Now remember these brush pens, you press on them, you get this. Don't press on them, you get this. It means you should be able to get a variable line between this and this. And instead of having to really do the work here, the tool helps me to do the work there. So this is in the shadow. That a little bit. Really want to have to concentrate on moving on the camera as well. So little bit of shadow there. shadow here, add a little turn. I would put a little bit of shadow in there. I would skip it. Shadow, shadow, turn, pressure, apply pressure, and leave that little area there. No shadow, shadow, no shadow, shadow, turn, shadow, shadow into the corner. Shadow to leave a little bit heavier because this is on the underside. And weight. Turn there. Now all of this will be in the shadow. So add a shadow here. No shadow. And this is no shadow here. But on the original, I pulled out onto itself like so. So really quite interesting using this technique of what we call modeling, create light and shade by the application of pressure. Now, I've not tested this, so bear with me. Bear with me. So what I'm doing is I want this side to be. Now, I generally don't use brush pens like this. I don't use them to draw with or to fill color. Those of you who follow me, you'll know that my idea for using a tool is to show how it works for writing. And I'm very conscious of when I use a tool to write that I'm not fiddling with it, going back and adding. I like to use the tool and make sure that I'm using it directly. So I'm using it in one stroke rather than going back and shading it in. I don't really like that approach to illustration or to writing. For me, it's really about getting the tool to do the work quite immediately. So that's sort of starting to pick up the light and shade. Now, normally in a situation like this, so that would be dark. I would turn, once I've decided where the shadow is, I would turn the page. And to get the shadow here. So lots of people tend to leave the page in one place. When you're doing ornamental flourishing, you tend to turn the page. So I'm turning the page because I want the tool. I want to pull against the tool rather than to push against it, because if you push against a brush pen like this, it'll stutter a little. The shadow would be here. And it there. I'm really starting to pick out the shade from this, and I need to get it this way. So I want to pull it to myself. So I want the weight here. Thin line, weight there, thin line again. Shadow here. I mean the brush pen is this brush pen is really good for this kind of work because it's so fine at the tip, and it's really sort of allowing me to to sort of express from a hairline into hairline and back. If I wanted to produce a heavier line, I'm about, what's that? I'm at about 70 degrees here. 90, I'm at about 70 degrees here. If I go to about, what's that? 35 degrees, I press, I can get a much wider line. So a lot of people press on the tool to get a wider line rather than adjusting the vertical pitch of the tool. So I have a really great video on YouTube. Oh, it's not on YouTube, sorry. It's on the PAScribe scriptorium, which, now that I've just thrown the pen away, the PAScribe scriptorium, which you can find via the tap link. So if you head to tap link, you'll be able to find it there. I'll also leave a link for it in the landscape version of this video for YouTube and for Facebook. So the video covers something called the PAScribe tool coordinate system. And I wanted to be able to help students understand where to hold the tool. I came up with this. I sort of codified this system where we have vertical pitch, where you know that the tool is vertical, and what is the pitch? We have horizontal tilt, because it could be this way or that way. And then we have axial roll, because you can roll the tool in between your fingers, and that's clockwise or anti-clockwise. So understanding where the tool sits in the hand is really important. As you've just seen, if I hold this tool at 30 degrees, I get more of the tip of the brush onto the page. So I'm not pressing, and that means I won't damage. Just be a little bit careful with your tools. This is quite a soft tool. These brush pens from Uniball, they're quite soft brush pens. But that doesn't mean you should just be pressing on them, because of course that can severely affect the way in which the tool will bounce back, and it will affect the tip. And it's a really fine, sharp tip, so really be careful with them. I'm looking at this and I'm really enjoying this. Let me just show this to you again because I really love it. Excellent. Oh. So there's so much more that can be done with this. Obviously, I will cover some of this in the PAScribe Acanthus for Calligraphers workshop on the 17th and 18th. Essentially, the workshop is going to teach you about drawing acanthus. How do you draw acanthus to use it in a border? How do you draw acanthus to use it in a letter? How do you draw acanthus very simply to a slightly more complex version of it? But of course, the aim here is for application with calligraphy. Now, I won't really be covering things like mixing gouache and that sort of thing. I will talk about it, but I'll also do some demonstrations with color and some demonstrations with light and shade, as you've seen me do here with these Uniball brush pens. Thank you very much.